Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel for this next video. In the last video, I have uploaded this concepts of this object-oriented programming using class and object. So now we'll see that how we are writing a program using class and object. So we'll see that what is class, what is object, how to create the class, right? So let's start with this theory part. You can see what is a class. It is a user-defined data types to implement an abstract object. Abstract means to hide the details. A class is a combination of data and the functions, which is called as data members and the member functions, and the functions are called as member functions. Now when you are declaring any member variable or member functions, you need to declare as a data type. So data type that separates the logical properties from the implementation detail, which is called as abstract data types. An abstract data type is a set of objects and associated set of operations on these objects, and that will support data abstraction, encapsulation and data hiding. Different data types that we can declare. Built-in data types are boolean, you can say integer, array, stack. Okay, so these are this built-in data types: boolean, integer and array. And user-defined data types that we can create as stack, queue and source data structures. Boolean operations that and or are not, and queue operations that are used to create, delete and enqueue the values from the queue elements. Now when we are writing a program using class and objects, first of all you need to understand the definition part and the structure of the program. Class definition begins with the keyword class. So remember, whenever you create any class, any program you write, you have to write the class name, and the name of the class will always started with the keyword as a class. The body of the class is contained within a set of this braces, opening and the closing brackets, you can see, and at the end we'll put the semicolon. So as you can see, this is the structure of this class declaration part, class and the name of the class here, opening bracket, closing bracket, we'll put the semicolon here. Within the body of this class, what we'll write here, we'll write the data member as well as this member function. That you should remember while you are creating the class. Within the body of this class, keyword private and public that will specify the access level of member functions within the class. And by default, you know that we are creating the member variables or the member functions as a private. Here you can see that when you create any member functions or member variable, that should be by default private. But if you want to make it public, you have to write down as a public. So usually data members of the class are declared in the private section of the class, and the member functions are declared within this public section. So we have two access members, one is private and one is public, right? So any member function which we are declaring, always we are declaring in the public section, and all the member variables are declared within the private section. Data members, or you can say the member functions, may be public, private or protected. It depends on the program, right? So it can be a public, it can be private, or it can be a protected. Public means data members or member functions defining inside the class can be used to add outside the class also. So different classes and the different member functions can access these variables and the member functions which is declared within the public sections. So you can see this is what is the use of this member function, specifier, public. It can be accessed outside the class directly, right? So we have to use what as a public interface. It is a keyword as public. Private, that is accessible only to the member functions of the class. Private members and the methods are for internal use only. It can be accessible within the class only. It will not be accessible outside the class. Private means the data members and the member functions cannot be used outside the class. If any member function or member variable you are declaring within the private section, that cannot be accessible outside the class. One more access modifier, this is known as protected. Protected means the data member and the member functions can be used in the same class and also in the derived class only, or you can say in the immediate class, not in all the classes present in the program. It is accessible to the same class as well as immediate class. Now you can see this is private and the public. It is if you are declaring anything within the private section, that can be accessible within the class only, and if you are declaring anything within the public section, that is accessible outside the class also. So this is the declaration part. This is the name of the class. You should remember this structure of this body of this class. Class as a keyword, name of the class, opening bracket, closing brackets. Private, we can declare the member functions or the member variables, and here we can declare both member functions as well as the member variables, and at the end we'll close this bracket and we'll put the semicolon. So this class example shows how we can encapsulate information into one package. For example, we are creating a class as a circle, right? We have a variable as radius, so we are declaring within this private section. We have a method void set radius, double get radius, get diameter, double get area, and double get circumference. So all the methods, all the member functions we are declaring within this public section, and the variable we are declaring within this private section. Opening bracket and closing bracket, you can see this is the semicolon. So here if you are talking about this private member variables, no need for the other classes to access and retrieve this value directly. So only the class methods are responsible for this data which is declared within the private section. Talking about this public modifier, they are accessible from outside the class and they can access the members of the radius. Now when you are talking about the class and object program, as you can see here, there is a class as a student. So always we are starting any program with the header file that iostream.h, then conio, right, conio.h, right. If you are using some functions of the C, then we can also use this stdio.h. You know that here in this program, gets function and puts function are used, so that's why I have used this. So the name of the class here student, variables are roll number and the name are declared within the class body. So by default it is a private, since it is not written, so by default any member variable will be a private only, and then put the semicolon at the end. In the main function we'll create the object of the student class, take the inputs, cout, enter the roll number, then we'll access through this object roll number, enter the name, again we can access this name also, we can display it and we can display this data. But remember, since the variable is declared as a private, that will not be accessible. You should declare within the public section, then only it will be accessible through this main function. So that is the problem for this program, how to remove this. You can see these variable we can declare within this public section. So instead of writing here directly or by default it is a private. So when you want to access these variables outside the class, then it should be made as a public, right? And other things will be same. So we have to use the modifier, public modifier, for accessing the variable outside the class. Now moving to this next concept, because when you are writing the program, right, you have to define the member functions. You have to declare the member functions. It can be declared in two different ways. Member functions can be defined outside the class, and member function can be defined outside the class. So what is the, that syntax for defining the member function outside the class? You know that we have to use this binary scope resolution operator. Member name as well as the class name we have to write. You have to use this format. So you can see this is the return type. This is the name of the class. Scope resolution operator, and then we'll write the name of the member function. Opening bracket and closing bracket, and then this is the part of the function definition. So whenever you want to define member function outside the class, you have to use the keyword return type, the class name, scope resolution operator, member function, and then opening bracket and closing bracket, and then within that body of this member function you have to define the member function. So this is the example for defining the member function outside the class. See, this is the header file iostream.h, name of the class as a student. Member variables are the roll number as well as the name. We are declaring the member functions, right? So we can define the member function within the class here, that public section, then we'll write here void get data. Within this class only we are defining the member function. So void get data. So this is the input, enter the roll number, enter the name, and then again enter the name. Another member function which is used for display point of view, so that void put data will display the roll number and will display the name of the student, right? So here that get data as well as this put data, these are the two member functions, right, which are used for defining the member functions within the class. And here in the main function what we'll do, we'll create the object and we'll call both the member functions separately. So you can see these are the calling member functions. This is the member function which is declared and defined both within the class only, and these are the data member functions. So this is what this are the member function defining within the class only. Next, how we are defining the member function outside the class. Now again that just like a previous program, we'll start with the name of the class as a student, roll number, name, right? So these are the two member variables that are private here. After that what we'll do, we'll write the public as a modifier, right? Within this what we'll do, we'll declare two member functions, that get data and put data. We'll put the semicolon. At the end what we'll do, we'll put this bracket, closing bracket, and we'll put the semicolon here. So this is the body of this class only. And once you declare the member functions, you need to define the member functions one by one. So we'll write here return type, class name, and this is scope resolution operator and the member function. So write the name of the class student, scope resolution operator, and the member function here. Opening bracket, closing bracket, right? Again we'll take the input, we'll take the input see out and see in function. Again that see out and see in function. Another member function will define here, right? So again that will display the values for the roll number as well as the name. And moving to this main function void main, again we'll create the object of this class student, and what we'll do, again we'll call this member functions by using this get data as well as this put data, and we'll close this. So these are the definition part of this, how we are creating the member function inside the class, how we are creating the member function outside the class, and also how we are defining the member function inside the class and outside the class, and also what is the procedure for writing the program using class and objects. Okay, so thank you for watching my video. Thank you.